Nitya Ramachandra from the NR Sports Show. This is episode 826. I'm joined by a really special guest. Her name is Brooke Weisbrod. You can find her on all social media formats. She covers basketball. She used to play back in her day too, so we're gonna get to her playing career. And obviously, she's a great analyst covering the game of basketball, not only the women's side but men's side too. So, but I just want to say thank you for joining the show today, Brooke. It's truly an honor. You're such an inspiration. I've seen your work. You work hard every day, and everybody should be following you. And how are you and your family doing?
Oh, thanks, Nathan. Everything's great here. Appreciate you having me on. I'm kind of blown away that you're over 800 episodes. I mean, you should be proud of yourself. That's amazing. So keep up the grind. Great job. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
everything's cool over here.
Yeah. So hopefully, obviously, we're seeing a lot of stuff coming back, normalcy. Hopefully, Hopefully, the full things come back, but we're starting to see some of the normalcy coming back, so which is good. But,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so I want to start off with your childhood growing up, and when did you start realizing that you wanted to play sports and get interested in sports? And did you have like a role model growing up in the sports industry?
I was born into an athletic family, so I don't know if there was a choice. I had two older sisters who were athletes, and my middle sister, who was 4 years older than me. I was the constant nagging younger sister, tagged along with them. So with her and all the boys in my neighborhood, it was that era where we went outside and we stayed outside. So it was home run derby, it was football, it was riding bikes, it was boxing. It was like literally anything and everything we could play. That's what we did. So I'd say like that's kind of how I got my start. On my mom's side of the family, my two aunts are also very good athletes. And I used to force my dad to play tennis with me. And I even made him buy the Agassi shorts, the denim shorts with the hot pink spandex underneath, which I'm sure he hated at the time, but he was a good dad. He did it for me. Yeah, so I had a lot of energy as a kid, and my poor mom could only take so much. So she's just like, please just go outside and play and come back when you're tired.
Wow. Yeah, I want to start off with your playing career though back in the day. And when was the first time you picked up the basketball? And what was your process like getting to where you're at right now?
I'd say the first time I picked up a basketball was like probably in my bedroom with the Nerf hoops that my sister and I had, and the dirty dunks that would collect,
Oh, wow.
dirty laundry, right? So we would start there. And I remember having a really small rim that we could put on the garage, and we put it at a level where we could dunk it. So, that was like always the most exciting part of, being a little shorty and being able to play and hoop. And as I get older, watching my sister play and taking on, more of like a fan role, but really observing that, okay, this is something I want to do too.
Mhm.
Um, just learning the game really from her. And then we went to two different high schools. So once I got into high school, I've always had like really good guy friends and friends who played basketball. So I learned a lot from them, and just, realized how obsessed I was with the sport. And not only that, I had played tennis from the time I was about 9 or 10 seriously until I was about 14, and thought initially I wanted to play professional tennis.
Right.
And it's a great goal. However, it's a very expensive one, and tennis is a very individual sport, and I just missed the team aspect.
Hmm.
So once I started playing, high school basketball, AAU basketball, I became obsessed with it. And I was like, all I want to do is, play in college. And once I got to college, I just really want to play professionally in Europe. And that was my goal. So, learning different techniques of not only, defense, but different shooting techniques and lifting techniques, and how to get faster, how to jump higher. Those were all things that I would dedicate in the off seasons and train really, really hard, so that when I went back to college, or, my high school season, like, I just wanted to be better. So I tried to do as many of those kind of weird things, and both training in the morning and playing open gyms at night with local colleges, like players who were way better than me, and kind of getting my butt kicked every day. Like, it makes you a better player. So eventually, that paid off.
Yeah, so I know that you were a multi-sport athlete and you played three sports at a college. So before we get to there, but what was it like just to play different sports? Because I think now these days kids need to learn every sport before deciding on one, because you can get multiple advantages if you play multiple sports. So for you, what advantage did you get out from it playing three sports?
Totally agree, Nathan. I mean, I felt like we went through a phase where everybody was trying to like individualize their sport and play that sport only for all year round. To me, that's going to lead to injury and burnout. And the most important thing when you're playing sports growing up is that you're having fun.
Yeah,
Like, you cannot forget about that part. So for me, the first sport I ever played, was soccer. So that I'm going to take footwork and teamwork into any team sport that I have. From tennis, I learned a lot about mental toughness, how to work through things and figure stuff out on my own. Through softball, I learned a lot about hand-eye coordination. Boxing, getting beat up from my sister, I learned about, trying to
yeah,
duck and move and being able to take a punch and get back up. So all of those different things I think poured into being an athlete. So I would encourage anybody that has young kids today, like, put them in everything and anything that they're interested in and just let them figure it out, and if they decide like, hey, I don't want to play these other three sports, I just want to play this one,
mhm,
as long as you're doing it with your whole heart, that's cool. I just really go against, the personal trainers at like second grade and grinding these kids into injury or
yeah.
having to have Tommy John surgery on their elbows when they're 13 years old. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, so speaking of your younger sister, what's it like just to come like push each other hard and get to that goal? So what's it like to have that younger sister just to help you out and and then you help her out at the same
Yeah.
time?
So I was the younger sister.
Oh,
So it was funny because the one I keep describing that was really good at basketball. Her high school coach did not let her shoot the basketball. She was
oh,
a point guard. She was allowed to pass and she was allowed to play defense. And her nickname in high school was called the Energizer Bunny, because she just had a ton of energy and would always stop the other team's best offensive player. So imagine a younger sibling, 4 years younger, going against a really good defensive player. That's like, oh, okay, that's how I learned how to score. I'm like,
yeah,
if I can score on you, I can score on anybody. I'm not worried about it. So it was great to have that older person in the family to especially keep me humble, is what I like to say. But the competition was always fierce, very fierce. Like, she wasn't somebody that just let me win. And looking back, I appreciate that.
hmm. Well, that's amazing. And I want to get to what was your recruiting process like? How many offers did you get coming out of high school, and what made you choose Coastal Carolina University?
My recruiting process was maybe a little different than other people's. So I ended up transferring high schools from my junior year to my senior year, and I appreciate what I got at my first high school was actually more of a cultural education than anything. The academics were great. The athletics programs were all honestly pretty trash, but I appreciated being in a school where it wasn't just, one or two Black kids in my school, like it was 30 or 40% diverse. So having that experience, I'll look back at that and just think about how valuable that is, in my life today. When I transferred my senior year, my old coach had he kind of had an issue with it. And he also had a bit of voting power in the state of Ohio.
Hmm,
So I went from making, honorable mention all state my junior year to not even making all city my senior year.
hmm,
So because of that, I wasn't getting recruited. And I was only 5'7", so it's not like I stood out either. So I ended up recruiting colleges, and I remember being in the basement of my house. I was making dubs of tapes. I was writing letters. I was calling college coaches like, hey, you need to know about me. Like, I'm sitting here promoting myself. And I ended up calling Coastal Carolina. They had just changed coaches, and the new coach was like, well, listen, I don't have any money. And I was just thinking, well, like, I got to get out of Ohio. So what else can I do? I can play other sports, what is available. So my mom and I ended up making, like our own mixtape. It was like a softball mixtape, sent it down there. That was good enough to get a half scholarship for softball, and then I got an out-of-state waiver to cover the rest of it. So that's kind of how I ended up at Coastal Carolina, was not on a basketball scholarship, but on softball money. And then a couple weeks on being on campus, my assistant coach came up and she said, we got your scholarship for next year. Don't worry about it. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I need to stay down here. I cannot go back to Ohio. So it was funny. I think there was some D2 offers. I was recruited by Nebraska. They ended up signing a junior college kid. But the assistant coach at Nebraska called the Coastal Carolina coach, my coach, Alan LaForce, and was like, listen, she can play. And that's what got me the other half of the scholarship. So, I'm grateful for how that worked out too.
You have an amazing and interesting career as a professional athlete, and obviously the softball. What was your college experience like? And obviously, when you were playing softball, you reached the NCAA tournament. So take me back to that experience.
That was awesome. Like, of course I wish we could have gone there for basketball too. And that's always a sad part, but oh my gosh, we went to Nebraska for the first and second rounds. Nobody knew who we were. They were like, Coastal Carolina, where is that? We had to explain to everybody what a Chanticleer was. And I remember the first morning we woke up, tornado sirens, had to go in the hotel freezer, wait that out. I'm like, okay, this is Nebraska. It's spring. This is what we do here. Then we get to the stadium and there's probably 5,000 people there to watch Nebraska. Nobody's there to watch us. And I just remember the fans saying like, go big red. And it's so intimidating. Then we start playing the game. Nebraska hits 3 home runs in a row off of our pitcher. And we're sitting there like, oh Lord, it's going to be a long day. But we had so much fun. And we ended up being respectable in the tournament. We got a few hits and a few runs, but that experience, and I see now why the College World Series, the Softball World Series, is so much fun and such a big event. I'm just getting like a small taste of that. It was really incredible.
Yeah, and also you were named Clear of the Year. What was that? Take me back to that experience. What was that like?
Yeah, so the first was Dustin Johnson, who we know is like a great golfer, and I was awarded the first female Chanticleer of the Year, which is super cool. One thing I love about Coastal Carolina is they take everything seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously, right? So you're there to get a great education, you're there to play and be as competitive as you can on the field, but we know how to be social and we know how to party. I mean, the school is right outside of Myrtle Beach, right? So if you don't know what you're doing down there, like you're not going to make it through class if all you're going down there to do is party. So you got to learn how to balance that. And I had experience in high school doing that as well. So once I got to college, just kept that rolling. I was serious during the season, but certainly when season ended, it was like, all right, we're going to the beach. We're going to hit the road, whatever that called, I guess the strip, downtown, all the clubs. So like, it was good because I feel like I got a lot of that out of my system in college and in my early 20s. So like, I'm good. If I never see a club again, that's great.
Yeah, but was it tough for you though, playing 3 sports in the college and then had to balance out with academics also at the same time? Was it tough for you? But how did you balance that out with academics and then sports and then maybe some partying too?
Yeah. I think a lot of it I developed in high school. The high school I transferred to my senior year, I'm not kidding, between 3 and 5 hours of homework every night. I was in AP classes. I was doing everything I can just to pass AP calculus. It didn't work for me. So I was used to that type of work, going to school, going to practice, and then doing my homework for, hours at a time. And once I got to college, I found the academics not to be as challenging as they were in high school. So I credit, the school I went to for that. But yeah, like it's all about time management, right? So in season or I'm sorry, preseason, you're going to get up at 5:30, 5:45, you're going to go to class, probably going to go get some workouts in. Then you got to get that nap in, you got to eat right, go back to practice. And then by the time it's all said and done, you're just too tired to go out and do anything. But you have to prioritize things, right? So if it's like for me, having good grades was as important as playing well, because I knew, I wasn't going to be playing professional sports, or if I was going to be playing professional sports, it's not like I was going to get paid millions of dollars. So in my mind, I wanted a good advertising degree. I wanted to make commercials. That was my first dream job when I was in college. Initially, I wanted to be a lawyer, but looking at how long law school was, I was like, nah, forget that. So then I was like, no, let me do something creative. That'll be fun. Yeah, I would say just you have to be disciplined in your time management. And when you get all your work done, then it makes it easy to party, and it makes it fun because it's like, okay, all my other stuff's done. I don't have to wake up in the morning and stress about a test I need to study for.
Right. So this is a two-part question. And did you ever think that you could have played in the WNBA? And what was your overseas experience playing in Germany?
I would have loved to at least had a tryout for the WNBA, just to compare myself against the talent at that time. Looking at it, today's talent, I don't know. Like I look at like Courtney Vandersloot, she's my size, so I'd like to think that I'd have a shot. But really, my biggest goal, I wanted to live in Europe. I wanted to have that experience abroad and be in a totally different culture than mine. And I got the call to go to Germany in like late July of 2001. And so I was really excited about that, and ended up, going over there in August. And unfortunately, right before I left is when I hurt my back. I fell water skiing, and I didn't know what I did at the time, but I was like, not going to say anything. So I still went over there, and oh my gosh, it was such an eye-opening experience. I have German heritage, but I'm certainly, not active in the German culture.
Right.
So being over there and not being even able to go to the grocery store and think about what you need, usually you're like, okay, I need turkey, I need, bagels, I need pretzels, whatever the thing. None of that is there for you, or if it's there, it's going to taste completely different. So the first day I got there, my coach picked me up. I had no idea what he looked like, but then I see, this 6'4" dude. He's like, "Hey, I'm Uva. I'm your coach." I'm like, all right, great. We go to lunch, go back to the apartment. I take a nap. I leave a sign outside my door for my roommates. Hey, wake me up when it's time for practice. So, I hadn't met them yet. So they wake me up. We go to practice. First practice is over, and it's like on a linoleum floor, like cafeteria style. I'm taping my own ankles. I'm thinking like, okay, this is legit, like loving basketball. This is how it is over here. And do you know, we're changing in the locker room, and in comes a case of beer.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I look over like, what is this? They're like, yeah, this is what we do. We play and then we party. I was like, oh, I hit the perfect team. Like I didn't know I fell into the right category here. So that was the mentality of our team. We worked hard and we play hard. So that I absolutely loved. It was a bit shocking a few weeks after I got there, because that's when September 11th happened.
Right.
So going through that experience, I didn't see I didn't have a TV in my apartment. So I didn't see anything that happened until the 12th, because you couldn't get on the phone, you couldn't get on the internet, you couldn't get a hold of anybody. And so that gave me sort of a real sense of vulnerability, because even though, I'm in Germany, for all accounts, safe, I definitely stuck out as an American, because nobody's wearing sweatpants to go out and about. Right. So it was like, okay, you're clearly, not German. And that combined with, having a really bad back, ended up, I couldn't finish out the first season, but I still keep in touch with all my teammates, my coach. I went back for their 10-year anniversary of winning the championship, which happened the season after I left. So I have great, great memories of there. And let me just tell you how crazy the fans are. The WNBA is gaining popularity here, which I'm so happy to see. Yep. But when you play overseas, you are a rock star. People stop you in the streets. The fans would travel with us on the game. They would bring their own alcohol. They would bring drum machines. They bring music. Yep. They created a CD of songs about each one of us on the team. It was wild. I just was like, wow, I wish we could just bring this culture to the United States and have, the women's game be just as respected and celebrated. But it was, obviously it was something I'll never forget, and just appreciate having that time there.
Yeah. So speaking of September 11th, was it hard for you not being there with the family that day? And obviously, you just said no phone calls. It's hard to do phone calls and all. And how tough is it with being distant from your family at that time?
Yeah. It was, I mean, I was 21, so it was awful. I just was thinking like how badly I wanted to be home, and just how vulnerable we all felt, because we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how much longer it was going to be happening, or what it was going to lead to, if we were going to retaliate and have it be this, sort of world war that happened. So I think not being able to see what happened on the 11th, and then having it all hit, and just watching the visuals, your stomach drop, and your heart sank, and you just thought about all those people that, lost their lives, and the first responders that were being there, and knowing now how much they're suffering from post-traumatic stress, or just internal issues and problems from inhaling everything that they did around that time. It was, the best way I can describe it is really, really scary. And hearing that there might have been, some of the terrorists hiding out in small university towns, that's right where I was, and I'm not a person that lives my life scared. I'm not afraid of people, or anybody. So I didn't want to carry that vibe and that energy with me. That was the first time I was like, oh, I really need to be aware of myself and my surroundings.
Hmm. So now transitioning to your analyst career broadcasting, and what's it like to still be involved with sports, but in a different aspect, covering it, and then seeing these young talent grow, not only in the NBA, but WNBA and college sports too. And you work with a lot of amazing people at ESPN and all these other networks. So what has the experience been for you like as an analyst so far?
Oh, it really is a dream job. I mean, to sit down in front of a game where you have the best seat in the house, you have nobody in front of you, and you get to talk about a game that you love for a living, and you get paid for it. It's like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And to have seen, some of the amazing players. I mean, just think about, Zion Williamson, for example, watching him just in a short time at Duke develop, and seeing great buzzer beaters, or being a part of the women's NCAA tournament, where like every year it just keeps on getting better. That the ride has just it's only gotten better. And every year I think about, who's going to be that next wave of talent.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing Sabrina Ionescu at the McDonald's All-American game, and my partner at the time, Adam Amin, I was like, trust me, dude, she's the one in this class. She's the one you want to watch.
Yeah.
So watching all of that stuff come through and come to fruition, it's like, oh man, like it's great to visualize, because you can see after a while, you can see the pattern in who's going to separate themselves from everybody else.
Right.
You can kind of start to quickly break their game down, and speak your truth, but also know, like, okay, I've seen this player before, or these instincts in a past player. And so then you can just really know what you're talking about. But to have worked with, like my guy Adam, like that's my boy Jay Billis, Dick Vitale, and like the GOAT Doris Burke, having to have called games with her, Beth Mowins. I had some really amazing mentors along the way to show me the ropes, to be patient with, somebody who did not know one clue about what she was doing, did not know how to use my voice, any of the buttons. Like I looked like a deer in the headlights my very first game. It was awful, but they kept bringing me back and believing in me. So, I was obviously doing something that was okay. And just keep on figuring out other ways to get better.
Right.
Like, for example, going to improv classes helped with, just me being my natural personality and myself, and not getting frozen if a coach or a player gives me like a really weird answer. I can just roll with it. Like, no matter what happens, improv teaches you to say yes and just keep on going.
Hmm. Hey, so speaking of those networking connections, actually we had Jay Billis on the show. We had Jay Williams on the show. We had Cindy Brunson on the show. They're all great. And what's it like to be connected with all of them? And actually, Monica McNutt is another woman that you work with usually sometimes, and she's amazing. She's one of the best too.
Right.
So what's it like to have those connections, networking, especially in this industry?
Relationships are everything. You can have all the talent in the world. You can be the best at what you do, but if you're not able to connect and have those relationships with other people, it feels kind of vapid. So having someone, that you're working with, like a Jay Billis, who, wants to give you the space to talk, and he's, showing that respect, it feels so validating. It's great. Jay Will is just awesome. He's got a great personality. Monica, I wish, I'd be able to call games with all the time. And having called her games at Georgetown, seeing her personality then and now, like, she's the same exact person. It's just great that she's now getting that shine.
Right.
And Cindy Brunson,
Yeah.
she called a game. I'm sorry, I sat next to her to just shadow a week before my very first game.
Oh, wow.
And she shared with me the game board that I still use to this day.
Oh.
So it's things like that, right? It's passing along information. It's calling people to say, hey, I have a great nugget on this player if you need something, because, one person can't call all these games. And yes, it is a competitive industry, but we're also really supportive of each other, because we know how much it means to be able to have that information and to have those connections, not only with each other, but the coaches, the players, the assistant coaches, our production crew, all of those things. That's really what matters most, is being able to be relatable to everybody, and, not act like a diva, because nobody's going to want you back if you're difficult to work with. And it's like, we have such a amazing, and in my mind, an easy job to just talk about basketball. And so, we're not out being first responders. We're not out there having to defend our country and fight for the world. So let's remember to not take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, so I'll send you those interviews that we did with Jay Billis, and Cindy Brunson, so you can go check that out.
Cool.
Yeah, so I want to ask you though, what have you learned as a report? I mean, as an analyst and a broadcaster from the last year when the sport shut down and we don't know what's going to happen? And obviously, you guys did. I'm sure you did a lot of Zoom meetings. But what was the main thing that you learned from the past year till now, with sports being back now?
That a lot of times we're just not in control, and you have to work with what you have. So you hit it right on the head, Nathan. Like, we were here, I was sitting in this same spot calling games off of Zoom last year, and as difficult as it was at first, it started to become, routine, because we figured out ways around, okay, well, I can't watch the bench when we're in a timeout. I have to just look at what's on the screen, but I can create from what's there. So the mentality became make the most of what you have. And there is something to be said about, once the game is over, I got these headsets on, I put the headsets down, I go downstairs and I eat dinner. I'm not sprinting to the airport. I'm not stressing about making my flight. I have my dog laying down right here by my side, and I can go to sleep in a half an hour after calling the game if I want. So there was some good things and positive things that came out of it. I just think about how stressful it was for the players and the teams, to having gotten tested, hundreds of times, worrying about, will they have their next game? That anxiety, especially for young people, for teenagers, I feel for them, because as college coaches, what do you tell them? Like, you're their parents in that situation, so a lot of, and the other thing I learned was, a lot of our talks and meetings off of Zoom no longer became about X's and O's. It became about, hey, how's your mental health right now? Checking in. Are you guys doing okay? How can we support you? What are the stories you want us to tell? Because we can't be in shoot arounds and watch those things happen. So I think there was a real human connection that, was always there, but it was definitely heightened this year, because people really started to understand the seriousness and importance of mental health.
So I want to, obviously everybody should be talking about this topic, women in sports. I'm a big advocate of women in sports, and I have a team of 7 people that helps me out with the show, and 3 of them are females. And I love what I'm seeing here with women in sports, especially you and Monica McNutt, and you have, like I said, you have Cindy Brunson, Doris Burke, and I have Becky Hammond. Hopefully soon becomes the first female, or Teresa Weatherspoon, another one. So what's it like just to see all these women getting more opportunities to coach male sports and be a GM for a baseball team, Kim Nang? And what's it like seeing all this?
what I think it tells me is like we've been here all along, and now the opportunities are there, so we're ready. We've been ready, and it's amazing for those moments to now open up, and to me it's just the beginning. um I think it's great to think about, Becky Hammon is the first NBA coach out there, and I just want it to be more of a regular and a normal thing. Muffet McGraw talks a lot about, I'm tired of seeing the first of this and this, and and she's right. Like if we look at it, there was a statistic, and this is outside of hiring practices, but in terms of sponsorships, less than 1% of sponsorships go to women.
Hmm.
And it's like 0.4. So you're not even talking about 1% of money in all of the world of sponsorships
Right.
that's going to women.
Hmm.
And that just mystifies me because they have no idea the market that they're missing out on. The women's basketball market to me is a highly untapped industry. A few years ago, nobody was wearing sneakers with dresses, on camera, and I was like, cool, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to do this, I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission, see how that goes. And you see it everywhere now, and you see all kinds of, like the Jordan brand now embracing a lot more female athletes and building their roster. So I think I want to see that, continue, and see the younger generation. Um, I want to see them fight as hard as we did, but because that opens even more doors. I would hate for them to have to deal with what we've dealt with to this point. But knowing the progress that's been made already, I want them to keep that same mentality and that same spirit of fight. And like, that's what's great about Gen X is like, they take no crap from anybody. And
Right.
so like, I'm empowered by seeing that because, or Gen Z, I should say.
Gen Z.
Yeah. Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z.
Yeah. Gen Z is just they're on it, man. Like I'm trying to get down with the TikToks and all of that, but it's more like their mentality than anything that I really enjoy.
Yeah. I actually, and also, we also had Renee Montgomery on the show, and we had Nikki Collin on the show. And the reason why I always bring up Renee's name because it was an honor speaking to her, and not only as a player, and she is amazing off the court. And so Maya Moore started this whole thing, obviously with the social injustice, and I'm really proud of Renee because she had an excellent career. Now she's a part owner of the Atlanta Dream. I'm just honored that she was on the show. And what are your thoughts on the WNBA and the NBA coming together, trying to fix this situation with social injustice?
I think it's a good, anytime you can have a partnership in a unified message, I think it makes it that much stronger. And, I don't want to take away what the NBA is doing. However, the WNBA, as you said, was that league to start it, was the Black women of the WNBA between Maya, Renee, Chene, Nneka.
Yeah.
Their movement really made the impact and the difference, as we saw like in the last election. They made a huge impact. And so I think what the NBA could amplify the WNBA's message and stand in solidarity with them. It just really shine more of a light on what the resources that they have, because it's not, it's not the same thing. There's obviously many independent teams of the WNBA that aren't a part of the NBA. So I think it's okay to keep those leagues separate because they're each their own game. But there's definitely something to be said about when you see the NBA players rocking the hoodies, reiterating the same messaging that the WNBA players, when they use their platforms and post-game press conferences to give the W players a platform and just acknowledge what they're doing and demand respect, because as we know, there's still a high lack of respect for Black women and for Black players overall, and representation. That's, I think, what we'd like to see more of is, there is a big difference in the amount of media coverage for white players than there is for Black players. So I'd like to see, an equal balance of that acknowledgement and just give them their roses, as it said, or flowers, I should say. But like, that's to me, the thing that I love watching about the WNBA is that they are trendsetters, whether people want to acknowledge it or not.
Yeah, so before we get to, we do this fun little segment. It's called the rapid fire segment. But before we get to that, What advice would you give to young kids or young athletes or young broadcasters that are trying to reach to their goals and go get to their dreams like what you did?
That you don't have to be perfect right away.
Yeah.
That as long as you're trying, you're getting somewhere. Consistency and the effort and the relationships are going to be everything. And everybody's got a phone. Everybody can have a YouTube account.
Mm-hmm.
You literally can start from your bedroom or TikTok and create your own personality and be a star. When it was my turn, I was making tapes and I was on the phone trying to talk to, ESPN executives, and they were telling me how bad my tape was and that, like, oh, don't give up your day job, But had I listened to that, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
So you're going to get, and you're also your own worst critic. Like, I still don't love to go back and watch myself on tape or games or, even interviews, but you got to get over that, because how you see yourself is sometimes not the way other people see you.
Right.
So I'd say, as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, like, you have to absolutely love it. You got to be willing to be humble. You have to be willing to be coachable, and you have to go outside of yourself to look for skill sets like speech classes, like acting classes, like getting feedback from people in the business. I'll review tapes a lot of times, and I'm going to be honest, like, if there's things that you need to do better, I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but I'm going to be like, listen, and because the same thing was said to me, the way your posture is, how your voice sounds, the way you carry yourself, how you dress, those are all things in a visual medium like TV you have to take into accountability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like for us, this show launched, this show is not even a year yet. It's a year now. We launched it when the pandemic started, actually, when the sport shut down. And all my friends say, you're crazy. How are you at over 800 episodes already? It's about, like I told my friends, it's dedication, hard work. And we have done 6 or 7 episodes in one day before. So,
Wow.
yeah.
See, just like that. I mean, I don't think there's many people who could look back within a year and say, I've done 800 plus interviews. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. So you ready for the rapid fire segment?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's go.
All right. So Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Kawhi's all day.
Favorite food?
French fries.
What is your most memorable game that you played in college?
When I scored 33 points and went 4-15 from the free throw line.
How about your most memorable softball game?
Oh, hitting 2 home runs in one game. I don't remember who it was against, but my basketball coaches were there.
Oh wow. Favorite memorable game that you covered as a broadcaster?
The Duke Louisville game, where Louisville was up 23 points with like 10 and a half minutes to go, and Duke came back and won. And Zion told me in the post-game interview, Coach K said, I don't coach losers. And my whole body got chills. I was like, oh, okay.
What was it like, actually, speaking of Zion, what was it like covering him and interviewing, get to know him in person?
Really nice guy, really humble, and just somebody that you could tell has a good heart about him. Has a ton of just cachet to him and swag, but somebody you could just hold a conversation with.
So what are your, can we just say now that big leads are not safe anymore? Can we just say that? Can we just
yes.
the book?
Yes, thank God. I love it. Drama, bring it.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this crazy NBA playoffs? This reminds me of college March Madness right now, because we're getting new flavor of teams. And like, for example, this is a weird Eastern Conference Finals, but Bucks and Hawks, that should be interesting. But I had the Nets winning the finals, but unfortunately now it's gone. But what are your thoughts on these crazy playoffs?
That's why I think it's so cool. We're seeing new blood, and as much as I like LeBron and Steph Curry, like, they're great. But how cool is it to see Devin Booker step his game up? We're seeing Trae Young. Like, those are new guys. Chris Paul deserves a ring. Giannis, like, how can you not root for Giannis? So to me, it's exciting because it's elevating the entire brand of the NBA and guys who deserve their shine and haven't gotten it up to this point. So, like, I am all for it.
So speaking of players, I want to get to Sabrina, because she is obviously a great talent, and she reminds me of Kobe. That's one of her favorite players. She has that mentality. Do you think she's like a Kobe to you? She plays like Kobe.
I do, and I again, like I feel like I saw it in the high school game, and it was such a it was such a surreal moment. I was reporting, I should say, a game of hers. They were playing Oregon State on the day that Kobe passed away, and having to keep it together emotionally because we're all Kobe fans. Talking to her in the post game, it was two quick questions,
Yeah.
but you could really just feel the intensity in her heart and in her voice, trying to channel him and Gigi. And so I think that's what you see is that she carries around the honor of him and Gigi with her, and she plays like him, no doubt. I love that.
Would you say that's your most memorable interview you've done?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one and the Zion interview were my two, I don't want to say favorites with her because I don't, that wasn't a favorite moment, but yeah, definitely the most memorable.
Favorite music?
90s R&B.
Yeah, Tupac, Biggie, and all. Yeah.
Yes, I can tell you, I was at a high school party the night that Tupac was shot, and like my whole heart dropped. I was and still am such a Tupac fan.
Yeah.
You see, a lot of old pictures of me in high school, acting like an idiot, just knowing how much I loved him and Biggie. But yeah, 90s hip hop and R&B, you barely will listen to me hearing anything else.
So actually, last week was Tupac's birthday. 50. He would have been 50. And did you watch the movie?
Of
Tupac?
course.
Yeah, that was
Of
awesome.
course.
I love that
Yeah.
movie.
And the Biggie documentary.
Yeah, the big. Yeah, that was awesome too.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the? What was your thoughts actually on the softball playoffs? That was just amazing.
Yes. I think that they need a bigger stadium.
Yeah.
I think they need bigger stadiums. I heard that they didn't have batting cages or, showers in their locker rooms. And obviously we saw the disparity between, the women and the men in the NCAA basketball tournament. That is a show, and I, again, that's where the platform needs to be recognized and given. Like, who cares if they have a lease for the next 10 years? Recognize the game and where it's at, break the lease and find a bigger stadium and put them on prime time. Like, those games deserve to be on ABC.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of, what was your reaction when Olivia Taylor made that incredible catch?
What? Yes. Like, there were so many of those just incredible plays. You saw people like robbing home runs, diving to home plate, saving the game there, saving runs. And it just shows you how incredible these athletes are. I mean, being behind the plate and, watching almost 70-mile-an-hour fastballs, like, people don't realize that's the equivalent of like a 95, 98-mile-an-hour fastball in baseball. So like, that's the kind of heat these pitchers are coming with.
Funniest teammate that you play with and funniest person that you work with right now?
Funniest teammate I play with in college, and she's a good friend of mine. Her name is Michelle Davis now. She's Michelle Rodriguez in high school. We watched American Pie together when it first came out, and we would be quoting like American Pie during practice and games. I also had another teammate. Her name was Roz. She would stand behind my coach when he was being so serious. She would just dance behind him, and we're sitting here like trying to keep a straight face. If he saw her doing that, we would have run for days. So those two were definitely my two favorite teammates. Doris is so funny and has this incredible wit and sense of humor. And, you'll get a lot more of it off camera, but like, if you're hanging out with her at dinner, you just is like, oh my God, like, I cannot, she's just so funny. So funny.
What are your thoughts on Mike Breen, the Hall of Famer?
Oh, he's great. He's, I mean, one word, bang, he's turned that into a Hall of Fame. Him and Kevin Harlan, to me, make the game, they just make the game bigger. Kevin Harlan, he does play-by-play when a fan runs on the court or a cat runs on the field, and it makes you want to watch it. Like, I'd want him to call my life.
Yeah, we had Bill Pito on the show too. He's another one. He's another great one that covers the Knicks and the MSG network. And so I want to ask you, outside of Sabrina, what other WNBA player do you like to watch right now?
Well, I love to see Candace because she's now back in Chicago. So being able to go to the Sky Games and watch her is so much fun. And I love the way that she's picking up her teammates. Like Chicago's like on a roll right now, and I have no doubt they're going to get into the finals. Courtney Vandersloot and Allie Quigley, those two as a duo, and watching how crafty Sluty is, she comes up with passes that you would not even believe. Arike, because she hits so many game winners, because she's clutch. Same with Jewel Lloyd. She's the exact same way. Sue Bird, like she's so much fun to watch because again, like she's crafty with her passes and she's such an intelligent player. She's somebody that sees 2 and 3 moments ahead of the game. Another one of my favorite players is Dewana Bonner because she can literally do everything. And with that body, it's like she looks like a center. She's got a similar slim frame like Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But she can put it on the floor. She can shoot threes. She can block shots. She can do all kinds of stuff. So I'd say like those ladies are probably my favorites to watch. But I mean, really any game you're going to see somebody pop off and do something cool.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I just want to get your take. Who do you think will get the first female NBA coach? Teresa Witherspoon or Becky Hammond?
I think it'll be Becky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the momentum is there for her. I don't know where she'll end up. It'd be cool to see her in Boston. I think that's a great spot for her. And I think she would be embraced. But the Boston fans are tough now. You better win early. They are not there to play around. But either way, if it was Becky or Teresa or Dawn Staley, yes, I'm just team woman. So whomever gets it, that's the best.
Yeah, for me, I think the team that would fit perfectly for Becky is the Dallas Mavericks. I think she has a better working with Mark Cuban, and then Dirk Nowitzki's there now, so I think she can fit perfectly there. I think that's another team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to get your thoughts on Lauren Jackson. She is what a great career she had. Obviously a Hall of Famer. And what is your thoughts on her career? Amazing career.
Yeah, I mean, she's one of the OGs of the WNBA, and so I look at her, I look at Diana Taurasi as people who have carried the game forward for the rest of us. Lauren was such a good all-around player. I think she showed it wasn't about the position, it was about the skill. So to me, she kind of broke a lot of barriers in that way and led to, multidimensional players and that term of positionless basketball.
I know you're a sneakerhead. So how many sneakers do you collect? And yeah, I seen a picture wearing a sneaker during a broadcast game, right?
Absolutely. Yep. I got some Jordans right back there. The very first pair of Jordans I have too. They're kind of crusty, but I still keep them around. It was 5th grade, and I want to honor sneaker heads because I'm not somebody that I don't know every model. I will not get on the sneakers app and take my L's. I will not. I can't handle that. Nor will I stand in line for a pair. So those are the true sneakerheads. I feel like I'm more of an appreciator.
Right.
And I also will be happy to give away pairs. So I'm not somebody that like collects a ton. I would say right now, maybe around 50 or so pairs, wow. Which is a lot, right? It's still a lot. But compared to the people who have like separate closets just for sneakers, I don't hold a candle to them.
You should see Steven Jackson's showcase because he was on the Kurt show last week. He was sitting in front of his showcase. He has so many shoes in his back. Crazy. Yeah. Steven Jackson has a lot of shoes. And but before we get to the last two things, who do you have in the NBA Finals?
I would like to see the Suns take it.
Yeah.
Devin Booker is a super nice guy, great player, hard worker, and I think it's time for Chris Paul to hold up his first ring.
Do you think they can win without Chris Paul? Do they need him to win the championship?
Yeah, they need him, and it's kind of a whole confusing matter of why he was out for protocol when some other players who were also seemingly breaking rules. Yeah, that's disappointing. I don't know how long. I don't know if you know, but how long that's supposed to be, but they need to get him back ASAP.
I think, in my opinion, after seeing Game 1 yesterday, I don't think they need him for this series. They can easily beat the Clippers. I have the Suns winning in 5 games. Clippers are in trouble. If they lose Game 2, I think they're done because the Suns are talented. I love Monty Williams. He's been through a lot. He's a heck of a coach, and man, this Suns team is it's like a Cinderella story for the Suns right now,
Yeah.
and Hawks too. So
And the chemistry is there. To me at this point, it's everybody's got talent. You've scouted each other, each other's schemes. It's 100% chemistry that's going to get you the title.
Yeah. So then the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation called the Hugh Jackson Foundation, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking and making sure the community stays safe and the kids stay safe. And I'll send you the page. You can go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, not knowing too much about it. It's something we need to learn a lot more about and kind of be aware, right? Because somebody like myself that's in airports all the time, it's like maybe be more educated on the types of signs that are evident. And so I can be aware if something looks, out of the ordinary to let somebody know. Absolutely.
And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And I hope you all are able to take some rest, some naps, get some self-care work. What you all have gone through this last year, it's not fair for you to have gone through all of that. All of this should have been prevented from the beginning. However, you still did it. You still did your job. You showed up every day, whether you were tired, sick, all of those things. So we literally owe you our lives, and thank you for what you could do to try and save those who ultimately couldn't make it. So a collective hug and sending a lot of love from this end.
Yeah, well said. And there it is. That wraps up episode 826 with the talented and inspiring Brooke Weisbrod. Go follow her on all social media formats. She's an amazing broadcaster, analyst. She knows the game, and you're really inspiring. And just keep up the great work. Thank you again for joining. This is truly an honor. And we would like to have you back as a returning guest at some point so you can meet the full team.
Nathan, man, thank you. And great. Keep up the great work. This is inspiring for me. I'm like, I got to start getting on my grind. Dude's doing 826 episodes.
Thank you.
Special.
Yeah, thank you.